Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where we talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of The Equalizer. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. It took me a while to realize what this episode title meant, because I kept being like, D.W.B, and it wasn't until almost halfway through the episode I was like, right, because I don't think they ever actually said it in the episode, but I was like, driving while black, of course. I was like, all right. This was a rough episode, dude, especially for Dante. Especially because it sucks that it came down to that. They were hopped up, because we never found out who it was that actually got hurt. I don't know whether it was a situation of it was a fellow cop. I don't think that ever came about, but I think at the very least it was someone they knew, and it's like, right, we got to get this person. But that was the problem. They saw Dante. The fact is that he was someone that was like, whoa. The fact is Dante didn't leave with him being a cop, because I was like, oh, it's going to be so beautiful when he slaps this in your face. He didn't get the opportunity to. He was trying to until the guy freaking hit him with a baton across the face. I was like, well, he got tased and then knocked across the head with a baton. But the thing is, it's like, the reason why Dante didn't lead with it is like, no, it shouldn't involve me leading with it. I shouldn't have to be. I know my rights. I said them out loud in no shape or form. But just like it kind of gets brought up later on in the episode, and it's that guy who got attacked in the past, he said it was 30 years ago, and he was like, they didn't appreciate educated black man knowing the law and mouthing off and trying to be, so that's what happened. They think he's this criminal they're after, and it's like, oh, you got the nerve to be mouthing off to us about the law and stuff like that, like you have the same rights after what you did. But it's like, oh, and they find out he's a cop. It's like, why didn't he say anything? He was going to you till you bashed him in the head with a baton. But also, it's like, once again, shouldn't have to. It shouldn't be a thing of, I immediately be like, oh, I'm a cop. Oh, everything's copacetic. So it shouldn't come to that. You shouldn't just immediately jump to a conclusion. And I thought what was going to happen is we're going to find out, he was with one. I didn't realize he was going to be with both of his sons, but I thought maybe one of them at least, and maybe one was asleep in the back. It's like, no, they were in the store. I'm like, oh, dude, that sucks. And now they're like, crap, we know what's going to happen, so we're going to take Dante, and we're going to figure this out. And so they peel off with him. Luckily, and that's the sad thing, if Dante wasn't a cop, this would be a very, very different story. Because, for one, he's a cop. He has someone like Robin looking after him, because his kids know that if anything ever go down, call Robin. So the fact is, he's lucky on two fronts. Anyone else under those circumstances would not be lucky. I mean, we even got the history, 30 years ago, someone was in that exact same situation and did not get so lucky. The guy said, the worst sound for him is, he could hear the sound of his own ribs cracking because they were beating him so hard. So that's the sucky thing, and that it came down to this. And there's only so much Robin could do on her own. She tried to step to the station, and the sheriff there was like, people like you. And you're like, excuse me, sir? Because she's like, right, I'm trying to find out what happened here. And they're like, yeah. And even he was like, all right, pull up those logs to find out. That actor who plays the sheriff seems familiar. I can't place where I know him from. But luckily, Robin was able to get help from the DA as well, who she called in a favor too. So luckily, I mean, it benefits that they're all on the same side now. So she trusts Robin, all right, let's look for Dante. And they come there with some muscle, and the guy didn't appreciate it. And then he says, you people, because it's city people. But I'm like, I don't think that's what he was saying with Robin before. That sounded like you black people. And then it's like, oh, Maybe that's what that's supposed to say. It wasn't just about her being black. It's her about being a city person. But it's you don't say that to someone black, you people. I mean, you don't say that to anyone that's, a minority. You're yeah. So the way I don't know if that's just him covering his tracks, being you people, as in city people later on, coming and flexing here. But even he had his own concerns, because he was like, all right, look into it to see if there's any validity to what she said. That's the thing, too. He never stopped being an asshole this episode. And even the judge would be like, okay, so-and-so, stop gloating, So they couldn't find anything, and just they weren't as cooperative. But it's right, you're in here making demands. And I think that's going to be the sad thing is, because from the outside perspective, what does it look? What are they gonna probably claim? Like, oh, some crazy loud black lady came in here and was like asking and making demands and stuff like that. It's like, once again, I'm sure a conversation could be like, well, if it was because I'm sure for some, like the opposite sides of the spectrum for someone is like, oh, a loud black woman is essentially the same thing as a Karen for some, that correlation, I'm sure. So like, it's like, would that, if it was a Karen situation, would it be the same end result? It's kind of, I think, could be part of that conversation. But and I think that's also another benefit that Dante has. Robin is outside of the law. Like, this is all they could do legally, but Robin didn't give up. And she has Dante's back. They're partners. They work together. We actually met his ex-wife this episode, played by Tawny Cypress, which, CBS connection-wise, I talked about this. I believe, I'd forgotten she was in Supergirl. I brought that up recently with the most recent thing I saw her in, but I'll get to that in a second. And I think that was back in season 1 when I think she was the president in Supergirl. I don't remember. But the most recent thing I've seen her in is Yellow Jackets on Showtime, which is a great show. If you have not seen Yellow Jackets, I highly recommend you check it out. The entire first season is out. It's coming back for a second season. That might drop potentially later this year, but it's a really good show in my opinion. It's probably might be my favorite new show. Not trying to overhype it or anything. I thoroughly enjoyed the show. And I'm super pumped for season 2. So I was actually really surprised to see her in this. But, it's probably like a one episode, guest starring thing. So it's probably not going to take away from anything else she might be working on, whether it's just Yellow Jackets or any other projects. But regardless, tangents and all that aside, we actually got to learn a little bit more about her and Dante's dynamic. That, first and foremost, it was never bad blood which led them down different paths, but she, I think she talked about going to Wall Street, and Dante gave her his full support, but it's just they kind of both wanted different things out of, it was just, they weren't a good match at the time, but it's right, they still love their boys, but the problem is too, there's a complication of having that conversation about, Dante's in a very complicated space because it's right, on the outside, you will always be seen as, oh, you're a black guy. No matter, even being a cop comes second, at least on the outside. I mean, because all they saw was a black guy when, it's oh, our suspect fits this description. So, regardless of who they were looking for, they jumped the gun immediately, Jim and his partner. I wonder, has that actor who plays Jim ever played anything other? Like I said, I feel like I always see him get typecast as assholes, but I feel like there's something I've seen him in where he wasn't one. At least, a little, because he plays, assholes or just unhinged characters. The one that immediately comes to my mind, I'm like, I know the character he played in The Americans went kind of psycho for a bit, didn't he? I forgot his circumstances. It's been so long. That was early Americans. So that's a show I need to circle back to because I only got 2 seasons deep or something like that. But the show went for 5 or 6. Once again, tangents and all that aside. I feel like there's something more recent I saw him in and I just can't place it. I think it was something where he was playing a dirty cop. Maybe? Once again, getting typecast as an asshole. But circling back to the point I was really going down, is the fact is that Dante never had that conversation with his kids because he didn't want them to see him a different way. Because it's yeah, you're black, but you're also a cop. And having that conversation about police officers is that complicated thing. Because, especially for his ex, it's she's the moment my children were born, she's I didn't have that ecstatic, wholehearted, yes, I'm excited. It's there's a little bit of dread that comes with it because she knows my boys are going to grow up in a world where some people are going to look at them and immediately assume guilt on them. They're going to be immediately be the bad guys in some people's eyes. And that's not an easy conversation to have. And it makes you wonder, I think with everything that they talk about, I could easily see Robin already having those conversations with Delilah. The fact is that she never was yeah, I had those conversations with my own daughter. I don't know if that's come up because it is also the thing of Delilah's still no exception to it, but it is more likely to happen to Dante's sons. But it could just as easily happen to Delilah as well. I think that, but that's that whole, it's that very conversation, you know. Their plan ultimately is to kill Dante. It's like, right, we can't let him go, because the moment we do, you know what's going to happen? Like, we're going to get in serious trouble, because he's like, oh, like, we made a mistake, but do you think anyone's really going to listen? And like the veteran, like Officer Jim is talking to his partner, like, right, this is, we can't do, you know, we have to do this. It's like, right, you got a little girl. And the thing is, Dante tries to appease to that rookie cop by being like, I have 2 kids. They were at the gas station. Sadly, that gave them the big thing, being like, at first I was like, wait, you're not going to go threaten his kids, are you? It's like, no, if you go around his kids, they might identify you, so that's a no-go. But what he was trying to talk his partner, he was trying to talk Jim out of it, because it's like, right, like, maybe we can just let him go. Like, maybe it won't be as bad if we just let him go. And even their captain, like, the sheriff, he found out, he was like, right, everyone else's GPS location was found except for yours. And he never gave that information out because he wanted to believe the best in his people. So he was like, don't worry about it. But it's like, they asked him, and he was like, right, we didn't say anything about the cop because we ran into him. He presented himself as a cop and we left him alone. The reason we didn't say anything, Sheriff, and put that out there is like, because if we did, you know what that means? The BLM would have found its way here, and that would have been a whole hassle. So the fact is, you could tell he could tell something was off, but he didn't push it. He just kind of like, all right, and just like swept in over. Because when we got that case from 30 years ago in that county, I was wondering like, okay, I thought what was going to happen is we're going to get revealed that like the sheriff was the one responsible for it. But it's like, no, the veteran officer during that incident got dealt with. Like, he received his punishment, he was fired and all that. That's the complicated thing too, is because even Harriet asked, like, the fact is, this guy was on the other side of it. He witnessed the terrible thing that his partner did, and he called him out for it, testified against him and everything. Yet now, here you are doing the exact same thing. And Robin's like, right, you know, how does something like that happen? It's like, it happens over time. Robin was like, you promise and say that's not who you're going to be, but as time starts passing by more and more and more, now it starts getting to you, starts eating away at you. And even his justification is, right, I know what this is like. He's seen because he was involved with a similar situation, he's seen the opposite side of this. Because I thought we were going to find out this file that was like sealed for Jim was like he was directly responsible, just like his partner kind of went along with this. That used to be Jim like 30 years prior, like in a very similar circumstance. And so he saw what happened to a cop who went through the same thing. And Jim's just trying to protect himself. Like, no. Because I think he references when he's talking to their boss, their sheriff, that his wife is sick and that this might push her over the edge. Or maybe wife or just someone he cares about is sick and this might push said person over the edge. You know, that's why he didn't want to say anything. And it's like, you could tell it's eating away at his partner, but his partner's still guilty of sin. Because at any point in time, he could have done the right thing at any point in time, but he didn't. And I think it's interesting how this all plays into Dante's character, because he's split. Because he has 2 different wolves tugging at him. Not really wolves, but like 2 different sides of his DNA. His mom, which the actress who plays his mom, I'm like, I've seen her in so many things. The actor who plays his dad too, like obviously he's popped up before, but I'm like, I know him from something else too, I just can't place what. But essentially, yeah, the 2 different sides of him. Like his mom is like, right, you have a part of your dad, but you also have a part of me. Because his mom had always been able to see the good in people. That's why she stayed with his dad for so long. I wonder if his mom's still alive and around. She might not be. I'm curious about that, whether or not she is or not. Maybe she is. I don't think she's come up conversation. We know his dad has, but this was like the first instance of his mom. And so, especially this is all a byproduct of him also, like, he's scared because he's worried that this could easily go sideways, considering the circumstances. And he's got a massive head wound that hasn't been treated. So he could be like, there could be some brain stuff going on right there, but he's hallucinating and seeing his mom who's like, right, find the good in it. And that's when he tried to reach out to the rookie cop, which he was getting through to him. But then on the other side of things, you have his dad being like, oh, doing whatever is necessary, yelling at him as when he was a kid, like, oh, like, because his dad would kind of go too far, and he's like, oh, would you want it to be me instead of some other cop? It was like, right, it's kind of like doing whatever it takes to survive. And so if it wasn't for those instincts inside of him, that part of his father, he instilled in him, that like roughness, like Dante might not have survived it. It gave him the time to escape when they were trying to move him and kill him, because Robin got too close, because she confronted the cops because she pointed out the messed up bumper that Dante's oldest remembered, because he used what Robin taught him, like close our eyes, go back and relive the moment again, and he remembered the detail of their bumper getting messed up. And obviously the one police car was these two who didn't have a GPS location. And the moment Robin confronted them, it's like, hey, you might want to get that bumper fixed. Don't want anyone kind of misconstruing the situation. And it's like, oh yeah, don't worry, there's a large search party, we're gonna find Dante. And that spooks them, and they ended up, expediting their plans to execute him. So luckily Dante fought, but as he's stumbling away, because once again, not only did he get batoned in the head, he's also just been in a car accident. Then on top of that, as he's trying to get away because he's stumbling, because he's not moving fast because of his condition, he ends up getting shot. And Jim's about to go for more, but then his partner's like, no, stop. We don't have to do this. We can just, whatever it is, we deserve it. We shall accept the consequences of our actions. And Jim's like, yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. I just got scared. I was like, oh God, he's going to shoot you, isn't he? But it's like, no, he does what he thinks. He's looking out for his partner. It's not a silver lining or anything. So he knocks his partner out. I was like, right, you're going to thank me when for doing this. And Dante got into a tussle with Jim and bashed his face in with the rock. Didn't kill him, but knocked him out pretty damn good. And I think maybe it speaks volumes. Obviously at the time, like, his father's words drove him to get up. Then he also thought about his sons walking away. It's like, no, I got to be there for my boys. I can't leave them without a father. And as he's passing out, like going cold, who's the first person that comes to his mind? That he's like, yeah, with everything kind of going through my head, you're always there to kind of balance things out a little bit. But he's like, wait, this isn't right. And I think maybe it's just because she is there for him in real life. But I think it's funny that the person you think about when you're potentially slipping away is Robin, I think that says all that needs to be said. But luckily they were able to get him treated and return to his family. And obviously we skip like a week ahead, and Dante's doing this because he needs to. And that is, and I love Robin being like, right, if you ever want to talk about it, because he's still trying to figure it out, piece it all together for himself, come to terms with it. She's like, if you ever need anyone to talk to, I'm here. In fact, this is when she rubs his cheek to him, and you're like, yo! You could tell he's feeling it. Like, I think it speaks volumes to him, once again, that she was that once again, it could have just been his consciousness manifesting that as he's slipping away, putting him in a peaceful place, somewhere that would be peaceful, and that's with Robin by his side. Whether that was simply because of that, or because she's actually there, or just because his body naturally and his mind immediately went there because he would like that. It take him to a peaceful place before he passes on, but still. Luckily, Dante's here with us, and he plans on turning on his badge. And the DA's like, don't do this. You're a great cop. He's like, yeah, but what I did. She's like, no, what they did. He was like, that too. But it's like, for him, it's like, there's a lot I need to figure out. I need to figure out why I became a cop. Because if I don't, I'm worried about who I become. And he's worried he'll become like his dad. And it's like, I don't want to enter that slippery slope. I don't want to be that person I don't want to carry this with me. And if I stay in this job, I'm going to carry this with me, and I'm going to end up going down that slippery slope like my dad. And I don't want that to happen. So until now, he's going to go be with his family. He's going to figure out, So sadly, they don't have the cop, front to help them going forward. But they could always bring in some, pull the DA chip, because she could at least help out, because they're going to be more in a working term relationship, I think, not in an official capacity, still an unofficial capacity, but still. That other cop is still going to get the rough end of the deal, the rookie dude. Rightfully so, because you still were complicit with everything. But maybe he'll try and do the right thing and be like, right, like, this is what we're going to do. Maybe Jim is going to deny it. I don't know. About that sheriff, that whole department, ain't the first time it's happened now. Like, it's history kind of repeating itself, too. As Robin says, like, right, the more things change, the more they stay the same. So, once again, it's just kind of a rough end of the deal that Dante got this episode. And it's just, like, just a rough episode in general. Just like, you know. Once again, it's always that conversation, too. Not every cop is a bad cop. It's always that stipulation. You always have to put it out there. I think that's generally understood. I mean, not always. Like, I think there's people who are just like, nah, fuck cops in general. You know, it's a nuanced conversation, you know? And I think that's an even more nuanced conversation if you're a black cop, too. So, because it's like, right, it's a conversation about why did they immediately assume the worst when they saw Dante. Oh, he fit the description. It's like, they could have handled that differently. Yeah, they might have been heightened up because it's like someone got really hurt, but they didn't have to escalate the situation. They did. They could have easily, because cops are supposed to be trained to also de-escalate a situation, so could have arrested him, which doesn't make it any better, but arrested him, then questioned him, and, you know, giving him time to explain, hey, I'm a cop. Once again, that shouldn't have to be his first. I shouldn't have to immediately pull out, hey, I'm a cop. It's like, no, you should be treating me with respect until you find out whether or not I'm the guilty party thing. So that's the whole thing. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see where all of this ends up taking us going forward, especially for Dante. Like I said, they don't have a cop on the force to work with going forward, so they're going to have to figure things out from there. But also, like, how Dante figures things out going forward from here is going to be interesting, too. So, but really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.